I can't believe it's over. Yes, I have finished week 12 of The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. 12 weeks of The Artist's Way, can you believe it? When I think back over the past 12 weeks to where I was at in week 1, I was floundering. I was scared. I was unsure. Really, I didn't actually think that I could do this. I kept thinking that I might quit halfway through. It's been a weird experience. A part of that is just the fact that I wasn't able to give myself over to a lot of the spiritual concepts that were being presented in the book. Funnily enough, this week is called Recovering a Sense of Faith. In the introduction, Julia writes, "In this final week, we acknowledge the inherently mysterious spiritual heart of creativity. We address the fact that creativity requires receptivity and profound trust, capacities we have developed through our work in this course. We set our creative aims and take a special look at last-minute sabotage. We renew our commitment to the use of the tools." I don't feel like I have fully given myself over to these mysteries, this spiritual concept or the spiritual heart of creativity that Julia is talking about. You might be a more spiritual person and maybe you were able to grasp all of these spiritual concepts easily, accepting that God exists, accepting that there's a creator, accepting that there's spirits guiding your hand and your desires and your dreams, believing that your greatest desire is God's wish for you. All of that might have come very easy to you. It didn't come very easy to me. And this is where I really struggle with the program. I don't know that I am the kind of person who's able to give my life and my creativity over to a higher power. I would like to think that I could, but I'm just not there yet. I'd say actually the two things that I struggled with the most in The Artist's Way are the religious or spiritual concepts and also the inner child work. But they're also the two largest concepts within the book. And without believing in those things, I'm not really sure that I got the most out of the book that I could have. Julia presents the fact that there is a creator, that God has a plan for us, and that creativity is God's will flowing through us as a truism. I never quite gave myself over to that belief. I might one day, it's possible, but I'm not completely certain that I can. It does make me wonder, what would you do if you're an atheist doing The Artist's Way? I mean, I think if you're an atheist trying to seriously go through this program and having to go through all of these spiritual activities, you would really struggle. I'm not necessarily an atheist. I would consider myself agnostic because I just don't know. But I do still struggle with the idea that I'm supposed to just give myself over and believe and give up my will to God and all of these kinds of things. I'd be really curious to connect with other people who have done The Artist's Way and discuss with them how they feel about the spiritual concepts of the program. It's still fun to think about, and it's still nice to think that there might be some kind of spirit guides or team in the spiritual world that is guiding my hand or, whispering into my ear, all of those little moments of inspiration given to me as gifts. Can I buy it 100%? That remains to be seen. This week's exercises were really interesting. We had to write out a list of our fears, our resentments, and something. Fears, resistance, and anger. That's what it was. I wrote out a pretty extensive list, and it does always feel good to get out onto the page. And then you are asked to write those out and fill up a God jar. This God jar that I've created contains about 100, maybe more, different resentments, fears, hopes, dreams, resistances, whatever. All of that stuff goes in here, and the idea is that you're giving all of that stuff over to God. It's like, let go and let God kind of thing. Even though I have struggled with the spiritual tasks in The Artist's Way, I still did them. Filling up this jar of all of my fears and resentments and whatever, I actually did feel better about it. The jar is contained and it is not in my mind, and that's actually really, I think, the benefit of doing this kind of task. I think that probably having belief in a higher power or spirit guides is probably very beneficial because it means that you've got a little bit of extra help. When you feel completely alone, completely defeated, completely unworthy, you always have that belief to fall back on, that there is a plan for your life and that God has some kind of divine will that's flowing through you. If I was able to believe in those kinds of things, I would probably have a much, much easier time. But I'm a cynic. I'm pessimistic, and accepting that God exists and giving my life over to God's divine will in the course of only 3 months is a pretty big task, and I don't think it's just going to happen. I can't be the only one out there that finds all of this stuff hard to believe. Maybe it has something to do with my upbringing. I was brought up Pentecostal Christian. Maybe that experience jaded me. I honestly did get a lot out of The Artist's Way. I think the morning pages have proven themselves to be an indispensable tool. It's a daily catharsis, and it feels like medicine. When it comes to the artist states, I think that it was great to be able to set aside some time for enjoyment. I still struggle with the idea that my creativity is an inner child, but this seems to be slightly more grounded in reality than a lot of the spiritual concepts that she's presented. And so I am willing to get a little bit more on board with the inner child work. It's still something that I'm very resistant to. Honestly, a lot of inner child work makes me cringe deep within my soul. It might take me a couple of months, maybe even longer, to really get comfortable with the idea that my artist, my inner artist, as Julia says, is actually a psychological 8-year-old version of me that lives within me. That is going to take a little bit more getting used to and maybe some more time to wrap my head around, but I am at least open to it. Some of the unexpected benefits of doing The Artist's Way include things like the budgeting task, where you're asked to pay attention to your finances. It wasn't until I started doing that I realized that I am living well beyond my means, and I am wasting money on a daily basis on things that aren't even really important to me. The time management stuff was also really great because I wasn't fully aware of how much time I was wasting on stupid things like social media, like YouTube. Oh my god. And here I am uploading another video onto YouTube. I don't consider this a waste of time. I actually think this is probably the most beneficial use that I've had for YouTube, but really, I don't need to be consuming as many video essays as I do, as many podcasts as I do. I don't really need to know everything that's happening with the global stock markets. That's ridiculous. But I'm still so drawn to these things, and it's gotta stop. I think another benefit of doing The Artist's Way is really understanding what's holding you back, what those fears are exactly, getting very specific about them, but also what your strengths are. I know now where I could grow, and being unsure of your fears and your strengths is definitely something that can hold you back. But my biggest lesson that I have learned during The Artist's Way is about paying attention. If something is not working for you, if something is getting in your way, if you feel blocked, if you feel defeated, whatever it is, pay attention to it. Write it down. Delve into it. List it out. Really record everything that you can about it. Understand it on the deepest possible level. And magically, you'll probably find a solution to it. It really pays to pay attention, and it really pays to understand things on the deepest possible level. Something I'm looking forward to with finishing The Artist's Way is having a bit more time back, because some of these exercises have taken 4 or 5 hours to complete. And although they are beneficial and I have obviously reaped those benefits, there's other things that I could be doing with that time, and I'm really looking forward to having a little bit more of a regular schedule. This week was also the first week where I felt like things were just happening quite naturally. I was able to work in the studio without even having to think about it. I was actually excited to get in and start working. I felt a lot more free and a lot more playful about what I was doing. I got enough work done for me to be happy, but I'm still hoping that I'll be able to increase that gradually over the coming months. I do see a pathway forward, and I think with enough work and also enough patience, I think that I can get there. That's probably all I have to say about week 12. I didn't really connect with the reading, but some of the exercises were quite good. It felt like a good capstone to the program, although the 10th task in this week was to reread the entire book, and I was like, absolutely no way. You have got to be crazy if you think that I'm going to reread that entire book. Yeah, but I still got a lot out of this week, and I felt for the first time that I was working freely. It felt a little bit more like I was in a flow state with everything that was happening around me, and that felt really great. I haven't felt like that for years. So with all that said, thank you very much for watching my week 12 check-in. I hope you got something out of it, and I'll probably check in again in maybe 3 months' time just to update everyone on how things are going, you know, whether I've managed to keep up with things, or maybe I've thrown everything out and I need to start all over again. Who knows? All right. Thanks so much for watching.